Good morning, students. I hope you all are doing fine at your home. In today's class, we will do one activity. We have already discussed this activity in our online class. Today, I will show you how you have to do it in your notebook. So, this activity is based on chapter number 2, Longitudes and Latitudes. Now, before studying about longitudes and latitudes, let's first study about Earth. So see this first picture. This picture is of Earth, or you can say the model of Earth, globe, right? So this circle represents globe. Now see this line. This line is axis. So we have studied this in chapter number 3 that Earth rotate on its axis. So this line right here is axis. Now there is one more line passing through the center of Earth. Now this line is called equator. Equator divides Earth into two equal halves, the upper half and the lower half, and we call these halves as hemispheres. The upper one is northern hemisphere and the lower one is southern hemisphere. Now see, there is one more diagram over here. See, if we divide Earth on the basis of this line, so we'll get two hemispheres. First hemisphere is northern hemisphere and the second is southern hemisphere, right? Now next. Now you can see 2 points. I have written N and S. This is North Pole and this one is South Pole. Now what is North Pole? North Pole is the outermost point in the नॉर्दर्न हेमिस्फीयर. नॉर्दर्न हेमिस्फीयर का लास्ट पॉइंट जो होता है उसे हम बोलते हैं नॉर्थ पोल एंड द आउटर मोस्ट पॉइंट इन द सर्दर्न हेमिस्फीयर इज कॉल्ड एज साउथ पोल. सो दिस वन इज नॉर्थ पोल, दिस वन इज साउथ पोल. Okay students, now let's study about latitudes. So you can see one more diagram or picture over here. This is representation of globe, right? This circle is representation of globe. Now you can see some horizontal lines over here. The middle one is equator and there are many lines parallel to equator. You can see this, right? What are these lines? These lines are called latitudes. Latitudes are the lines running parallel to equator. Equator के parallel पे हैं. Now see, let's read out the definition first. Latitudes are imaginary lines running parallel to the equator. These are also known as parallels. Okay. So in lines को हम बोलते हैं latitudes and the other name of these lines is parallels. And now the question is, how many parallels are there? How many lines are there on globe? Let's see. Now, as I told you, equator divides Earth into two equal halves, right? The upper one is northern and the lower one is the southern hemisphere. So, in the northern hemisphere, there are 90 latitudes. And in the southern hemisphere, there are 90 latitudes. So, in the both hemisphere, there are equal number of latitudes. That is 90 in each. Okay. Now you can see some representation over here. You must be wondering what are these lines, right? Now let me tell you. So there are 90 parallels. I have just drawn few. मैंने यहाँ पे कुछ lines draw की हैं, बाकी नहीं draw की हैं. So first is 15 degree, 30 degree, 45 degree, 60 degree, 75 degree and 90 degree. Now I have written N. N represents north. 15 degree north. अब 0 and 15 के बीच में there are like 14 more lines, like from 1 to 14 more lines. So we will represent these with N. N shows north. 15 degrees south, S represents south. And equator is also a latitude. Equator को भी हम latitude में count करते हैं. Now let's see the total number of latitudes. There are total 181 parallels or latitudes. How? 90 in the northern hemisphere, 90 in the southern hemisphere, and one equator line. We will count equator as latitude. So 181 latitudes in total. and you can see the length of latitudes decreases as we go close to pole. Now this one is north pole and this one is south pole. So जो lines यहाँ पे है उनकी length ज़्यादा है, and if we move towards the pole, so जो length है वो lines की कम हो जाती है, latitudes कम हो जाते हैं. Okay students, now next is longitudes. Now what are longitudes? Now you must have seen these kind of lines on globe as well. Just like latitudes, these lines are also there. So these lines are known as longitudes. These lines run from north pole to south pole. ये कैसे move करती हैं? From north to south. Now let's read about these lines. Longitudes are imaginary lines running through the north pole and the south pole. These are also called meridians. Okay, so the other name of longitudes is meridians. The middle meridian is known as prime meridian. Okay, the line passing through the center of the globe like this one is prime meridian. Now just like latitudes, these are also divided into two halves, like the west part and the east part of the globe. Now how many longitudes are there? There are 360 longitudes, 180 in the west side and 180 on the east side. See this. If we start counting from here, so on this half we have 90, on this half we have 90. अब globe जो है it is a 3D thing, right? इसके other side भी है, हमने सिर्फ एक side represent किया है. The other side also has 180 longitudes. So 180 on the west side and 180 on the east side. So the ones on the west will represent with W and the ones on the east will represent with E. And the last topic in this activity is important latitudes. Now as I told you earlier, there are 181 latitudes, but there are some important latitude lines. We'll study about these in detail in further classes, but for now we will learn the name of these latitudes. Okay, so again, this is the representation of globe. We are already aware of equator line. So the line passing through the center is equator and it is at 0 degree, right? Next is, if we go in the northern hemisphere, this side. Now there is one major latitude and the name is Tropic of Cancer, and Tropic of Cancer is at 23.5 degree north. Next is Arctic Circle. Arctic Circle is at 66.5 degree north. Now if we move to the south side, southern hemisphere, this latitude is Tropic of Capricorn and it is at 23.5 degree south. Next is Antarctic Circle. This one is Antarctic Circle and it is at 66.5 degree south. So we have these major latitudes. Okay, so we are representing them with N represents north over here in these two and S represents south in these two. Now North Pole is at 90 degree, both 90 degree north and 90 degree south. So students, I hope this is clear to all of you how you have to do it in your notebook. You have to use colored papers for making these circles and do make these in big size, right? Don't make small size diagrams. Make this in your notebook, complete this, and we'll see you in next class.